So, hello and welcome everyone to another episode in All About Football. And before getting into this video, just watch this small clip.
For 1.5 billion people, today we are going to get the trophy.
इसका यहाँ पता लगना चाहिए सबको कि कोई टीम आई थी और इंडिया से आई थी और सबको ठोक के गई है। क्या करना है? ठोकना है। क्या करना है? ठोकना है। क्या करना है? ठोकना है।
Who are we? What is your pretension? Come on, India! 3, 2, 1, India!
And you recognize this person. He is known as Ranjit Bajaj, Mr. Ranjit Bajaj, who recently his team Minerva Academy created history by winning the Dana, Norway and Gothia Cup 2025. Well, people have discussed about how they won these tournaments, but in this video, I will discuss about Mr. Ranjit Bajaj and how he decided to challenge the AIFF and to help develop Indian football. So without any further ado, let's dive deep into it. Well, if we talk about the history of Mr. Ranjit Bajaj, we will not talk about him in the past. We will talk about what motivated him to challenge AIFF and to bring a change in Indian football. Well, if we talk about Minerva, it is based in Punjab and it was established in 2005. Well, his grandfather established it in 1955. He took over in 2013. Ever since, it has focused on the development of youth football. Minerva has always been focusing on youth development. They know that Indian football can only be grown from the grassroots. The current players, I'm not being disappointed in them. They are phenomenal players, but the current lot cannot compete in higher stages. Well, if we talk about his incident that made him, motivated him to bring a change in Indian football, it was in a moment when he was in Ambala jail. Yes, he spent 65 days in Ambala jail. Well, if we talk about his time during that, he recognizes and says that it was at that moment in the first minute of the first hour of my time in jail that I decided that I wanted to change my life. I wanted to be born again. Bajaj says to Hindustan Times in 2019, and there in that concrete dormitory with other convicts watching, I told myself, bro, when you are out of here and you will be released soon, because this is a false charge, you will set about achieving all that you ever dreamed of. Well, talking about his life, it has been nothing short than crazy, because if I talk about what he has done in his life, well, he has been, like I mentioned, in Central Jail, Ambala, and at different points in his life, he has been a student politician, a state level goalkeeper for Chandigarh, a bouncer at a nightclub, a sports bar owner, a 9 to 5 sales manager, an MTV Roadies contestant in his first season, a vice president as a bank, an under trial praying for bail in another jail, the liaison officer to the Pakistan cricket team, a cokehead, a reformed addict, a mountaineer, a deep sea diver, an instructor to aspiring army cadets, an owner of a national record, the brains behind a car recovery racket, the prodigal son of a family of government servants, a hands-on manager of a league-winning football club, the pride of his family, and a person who keeps on knocking the doors and keeps on letting the AIFF know that he is there to challenge them. Well, if we talk about the incident, why he spent his time in jail and how he recovered from the same, he says to Hindustan Times that it was a summer night in 2010 and a 32-year-old Bajaj, he had just exited Hotel North Park in Panchkula and entered the parking lot with two women, his girlfriend and her best friend. And he says that it was late and the bar in the hotel had shut, so there were some five boys drinking out of the dicky of a car, no bar, caro bar, as we call it in the north. And he says that as they passed them, one of them passed seriously horrible comments towards the girls, and then Ranjit Bajaj went towards him and hit him. Now, when he got home, he found out from his father, who is an IS officer, as well as his mother, who both are IS officers, so government servants. And he mentions that when he got home, he got to know that the boy that he had hit was the son of a sitting High Court judge of Punjab and Haryana, and they lived some 10 houses away from Ranjit Bajaj house in Chandigarh. And the police arrived, and the police in the morning when they arrived, it had been mentioned that they wanted to bring him to Panchkula, and that is when he decided to run from the police. So he mentions that because they were going to take me back to Panchkula, he says, broadening his eyes and the second syllable until it became Panchkula. That's Haryana, where the boy's father was a sitting judge. I wouldn't have survived the night. So they were taking him to Panchkula, and you all know what they were planning to do with him. To cut to the chase, Bajaj was running for 1.5 to 2 months between Agra, Udaipur, and then he decided to return to Mumbai and surrender. And he also recognizes that in many ways, I am what I am today because of those days in Ambala jail. Even though the allegations proved to be false, I still stuck by my promise, says Ranjit Bajaj. I did flip my life around once. I was a free man. Now every day is the first day of my life. In one of those cliched first days, he woke up as a certified PADI instructor. On another in 2011, his swim in the glacial waters of Lake Pumori, which is situated below Mount Everest, was recognized by the Limca Book of Records as the highest altitude swim by an Indian. So all this resources and all this information is thanks to Hindustan Times, who did an interview with him in 2019. And that was a spur of the moment thing while I was summiting the mountain, he says, and he didn't even think that he would take on and challenge the AIFF, and not just challenge them, he keeps on noticing them, and he keeps on reminding them that they have a job to do, they have to improve Indian football. Well, if we talk about his football journey with Minerva, so he mentions that his grandfather, who in 1955 had started Minerva Cricket Club, I mean the Cricket Academy, he thought why not give it a go at football as well. So then Minerva Academy Football Club were soon sweeping the weekend tournaments. So Bajaj started sending the team to play six-a-side competitions across India. That triggered ambitions of first hiring enough players to start a full-fledged football club and then entering the national league's second division. And he also mentions that he poured through the I League rule book and said that into the second division, he mentioned that they need to be state champions in order to participate in the second division, that is the I League. And Chandigarh hadn't had a state level tournament in 14 years, and the Chandigarh Football Association, he mentions, was a defunct organization without an office. If there wasn't a state tournament, they created one. And Bajaj also mentioned that if the association didn't have that much money, he gave 10,000 from his own pocket to organize the tournament. And there they were, two of those clubs, Minerva Academy Football Club and Minerva Sharks, both owned by Bajaj, reached the finals. And it was Minerva Academy because they had better players as compared to Minerva Sharks. So they progressed, and then they were allowed to participate in I League. In their first season, he mentions that there were many challenges. The AIFF entry fees was around 3 lakh. And he mentioned that when we calculated that the logical expenses to play home and away would be at least 40 lakh, at the very cheapest buses instead of flights, dormitories instead of hotels, he says. And he mentions that he didn't have that kind of money. And he also mentions that wasn't going to stop him. So he borrowed money heavily from his mother's provident funds and from his friends. And he also mentions there is quite a good code. And there we were, a bunch of misfits, an accidental club with an accidental owner and accidental players taking on the likes of Mohammedan Sporting and Dempo. And he mentions it was beautiful. Well, in his first appearance in I League 2 in the 2015-16 season, they went unbeaten in the Western Conference, and they traversed their way through the integrated playoffs and made it to the big final, where they faced five-time national champions Goa's Dempo. They lost 3 goals to 1, but in that moment, Dempo, along with other fellow Goan clubs like Salgaonkar FC and Sporting Club de Goa, pulled out of the 2016-17 season of the I League, all of them protesting against the AIF's plans to make the Indian Super League. So, in the early days of Indian Super League, which at this point of time is currently on hold because of broadcasting, because of sponsorship issues, at that time as well, clubs didn't like the ISL, the proposal of ISL. Of course, Bajaj himself does not promote and does not like ISL and I League, but at that point of time, he wouldn't waste a golden opportunity. But when he got there, when he participated, when his team participated in the I League in the 2016-17 season, his final was against Mohan Bagan, and he mentions that there were close to 65,000 spectators at the Salt Lake Stadium, and we had never beaten Mohan Bagan before. His team, his players had never played a game against a crowd booing you, the 65,000 crowd. They were all supporting Mohan Bagan. We all know the fans of Mohan Bagan. And he mentioned that he needed something inspiring for his players to see from their coach. And that is when there is a great story which he mentions. And he mentioned that they were so nervous that some of them were actually shaking in the changing room. And so he knew that he had to do something dramatic to inspire them. And then he points at his forearms and says, I made the team physio draw a quart of blood so I could bathe the players in it. So he told his players to stand in a line, and Bajaj smeared palms of blood on each of their foreheads, reminding them that they were not just footballers but gladiators. And the team, as he mentioned, turned into warriors and they defeated Mohan Bagan. Within 20 minutes, they were 2-0 up and they won it against Mohan Bagan, the giants of Indian football. Well, not just that, Minerva not just focuses on football, they also provide education for a range of entrance examinations for the armed forces and their academies. And they also have rescued stray dogs where they keep these dogs. So, along with football, the Minerva Academy has been doing something extraordinary to not just improve Indian football, but in general to improve India. And that is why is considered as an X factor for Indian football. But even though his team won the Gothia Cup, Norway Cup, Dana Cup, and not just one, they absolutely dominated it. Well, if we talk about the Gothia Cup, defending champions Minerva Academy, they won in 2023 as well. And Gothia Cup is known as the Youth World Cup. So Minerva became the first Indian club to win the World Youth Cup trophy twice. And Minerva scored 50 goals in the entire tournament and considered just two. It is an outrageous number. Well, if we talk about the Norway Cup, they dominated the entire tournament, defeating teams by 25 goals to nil, 15 goals to nil, 22 goals to nil, 17 nil, 18-1. In the semi-final, they faced Palestine's Ramat Al Charif club, whom they defeated by 8 goals to 2. And in the grand finale, they defeated SIF from Norway 14 goals to 1. And they scored 130 total goals. And Minerva Academy became the highest scoring team across all age groups in the Norway Cup 2025. Not just that, they defeated teams in the Dana Cup as well and reached the Dana Cup final and defeated and won the tournament. Their performance was so commanding that they became the only team expected to reach 100 goals in just 7 matches. So they won all 3 tournaments in 2025, and that is when Minerva and Ranjit Bajaj is coming to the limelight. But with the way that his life has turned out and with the way that he showed his grit and determination, it was a sign that he was bound to do something to develop Indian football, to change Indian football, and he is doing so. But it will not happen without our support. We have to support him because people argue, people criticize him for hogging the limelight, for being in media. He wants credit. People criticize him of that, but there need to be someone who can raise those voices. Otherwise, people in the top organizations like AIFF will sit there and do nothing for Indian football. Our ranking is 133. We are nowhere near to great. And a country with 1.4 billion, approximately 1.4 billion people should be participating. and I think should be winning the FIFA World Cup. What are your thoughts on the same? What do you think of the same? And we should support him. Let me know in the comment section what do you think of him and what do you think of Indian football and how far can Indian football grow? And do we need people like him to support Indian football? Because as of my knowledge, as of my beliefs, I think we need people like him who give their all for Indian football, and in that process, they want the betterment of the country as well. So, if you like this video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Do like, share, and comment. And that is it from my end. I am Atavaris Warsi from All About Football. And before signing off, I want to thank Hindustan Times for this interview, this article that they had posted in 2019, and it is their source which has been used mostly in this video. So thank you. That is it from my end. I'm Atavaris Warsi from All About Football, signing off.